Hey everyone, Pika TV here. In today's video, we will be talking about the World of Warcraft War Within Warrior Hero talents that were just released for the Mountain Thing. Huge shout out to Blizzard for giving me a sneak peek at the talent tree and for giving me the opportunity to interview the developers all about it. Link to that interview will be down below. Also, a huge shout out to Critcake, Archimetros, and Faithy for giving me their feedback on the new hero talent tree. Links to their socials will also be down below. But without further ado, let's get started. So this is the new Mountain Thane Fury Protection Warrior talent tree mockup. So there's like a lot of cool vibes that you're going to be getting here. It kind of brings me back to the Warcraft 3 days of like the Mountain King yelling Cosmodon, and he runs into battle and just gets fully targeted because it does insane damage with the storm bolts and the bashes and the thunderclaps. It's a really cool theme that'll be coming into the new World of Warcraft expansion. So let's go through each one of the talents and talk a little bit about it. So first off, we have the Lightning Strikes talent. This is the ability to damage enemies with Thunderclap, Revenge, Raging Blow, or Execute with a 10% chance. It's also strike one with additional Lightning Bolt, dealing moderate nature damage. The lightning strikes occur 50% more often during Avatar. Now this is like a little bit of a cool passive proccing damage that won't have any effect really on your gameplay, but be really cool to tie in with the Mountain Thane theme of Avatar. So you'll constantly be seeing lightning strikes doing damage all around you while increasing a few of your different damage abilities. So this follows the high theme of like Avatar uptime throughout the whole Mountain Thane theme. That has felt really good all of Dragonflight. And also, it doesn't force you into any kind of gameplay or different type of gameplay because everything is completely passive. Also, on the blog post, Blizzard mentioned that you'll be able to get all of these talents. Like, you don't have to decide, oh, am I going to go left side, right side, down the tree? You'll be able to get all of them at the end of it, kind of like the dragon riding talent tree that you currently have, where you'll be able to get everything once you have all the points when we hit level 80. But you'll have a few choice nodes whether you're going to choose between Storm Shield, Storm Bolts, Valajar Training and Flashing Skies, etc., etc. Also, the new talent trees will attribute about 25% of our overall damage or of like throughput for our spec. So it'll be interesting to see how this all kind of plays in together. All right, the next talent I want to talk about is the Lightning Strikes one. So Prot is all about Thunderclap, which really resonates with this version of Prot Warrior that people have beloved so much, which was the BFA version of Prot Warrior. Thunderclap is truly the name of the game with the Mountain Thane theme. So Storm Strike or on nature damage of your abilities deal is increased by 5%. Storm Strike damage ignores armor, and Thunderclap damage increased by 50%. This is going to feel really good for any of the Prot Warriors out there because you'll just be wanting to spam Thunderclap in single target and in AoE situations and just do big damage and have those big visual effects whenever you're in Avatar and doing the new Thunderous Blast ability. For Fury, it's going to be a little bit different. It's kind of a little bit weird in my opinion because Thunderclap has never really been a real part of the Fury rotation before. So this being included is going to be a little bit awkward. Thunderclap has such a high rage cost that it would be odd in the current Fury meta of being enraged between 85 to 100% that it is currently. With the amount of button mashing we already have, the addition of TC Global would make getting the full effect of our mastery in Rage a little bit more difficult and a little bit weird. But I'm excited to see how they plan to implement that. Also, this makes Thunderclap possibly replace Whirlwind in the rotation because as you can see here, Thunderclap will also be taking the effects of Improved Whirlwind and Meat Cleaver. So it'll make your Thunderclap cause your next 4 abilities or single target abilities to AoE, as well as, hold on, let me just double check here. And also, it'll make your Thunderclap do 25% more damage, as well as generate 3 or like additional rage. So yeah, just basically get the effects of whatever Whirlwind has now, but on Thunderclap. So it's essentially going to be replacing it. What I find a little bit weird about it, though, is that it doesn't affect other talents that have to do with Whirlwind. So for instance, you have Storm of Swords. which Whirlwind has a 7-second cooldown but deals 80% increased damage. So you don't have that. So that's going to be kind of like a dead talent. So you're not going to be using Whirlwind anymore. Also, Barbaric Training and also Seismic Reverberation. So, like, does it make these talent trees points useless, or does it actually gonna like still play a role within the Fury rotation? And that's gonna be yet to be seen until we get to actually try the specs out on live. But yeah, something interesting to think about anyways. All right, back to the talent tree. The next one we're going to talk about is Ground Current. So Ground Current, this is pretty cool. It just makes the theme do slight more AoE damage constantly, like the lightning strikes. And I can't imagine this being like too overpowered unless the tuning of lightning strikes is just kind of insane. It just kind of makes it better so that lightning strikes aren't only hitting one target, but in AoE situations, it's going to have a little bit more of effect as well. The next is the Strength of the Mountain. Shield Slam damage increased by 20%, Bloodthirst and Rampage damage increased by 10%. So again, for prot, this is great, right? You have the Shield Slam, you're Shield Slamming on cooldown for that huge amount of rage, the huge amount of survivability, the great single target priority damage. So this is like, it's just good passive damage overall. It's a little bit of a boring note, doesn't add anything too special. Also increasing Bloodthirst and Rampage damage by 10%. Nothing insane, but nothing build defining, but just a nice passive damage increase. Now this talent, Thunder Blast, this is the one we want to talk about, right? Because this is the theme of the mountain thing, where it's going to be doing huge empowered thunderclaps. Shield Slam and Bloodthirst have a 20% chance to grant you Thunder Blast, stacking up to 2 charges. Your Thunderclap becomes Thunder Blast and deals Storm Strike damage. So essentially all this is an empowered Thunderclap that does additional magic damage that ignores armor. And your Shield Slamming and Bloodthirsting, giving you charges of Thunder Blast with, depending on their internal CD, will make you want to spam Thunderclap and spam Bloodthirst. So in prot, you will be, you have the spam Shield Slam, spam Thunderclap, which will also in turn give you back like all the rage, all the damage. It feels really, really cohesive with what Prot Warrior is today. For Fury though, this is going to be kind of interesting, right? So let's say for like there's 2 builds that you really want to play with Fury today, which is either the Rampaging Blow build or the Annihilator build. One heavily relies on using a ton of Raging Blow without a lot of Bloodthirst, and the other one wants you to, well, you can't really hit Raging Blow, but you'll be using a Bloodthirst quite often, right? So some of this tree has a little bit of synergy with Raging Blow builds, and some of them have a little bit with Annihilator builds. For this Thunder Blast specifically, you'll be wanting to hit Bloodthirst quite a bit, so you can get those huge Thunder Blasts. So it kind of pushing away from a Raging Blow build, in my opinion, unless the tuning for it is not like very significant. But yeah, this is what we saw at the BlizzCon first look, and where you saw the warrior do the triple thunderbolt, stormbolt, and then the huge thunderclap. So it's going to have really cool visual effects in the War Within. Okay, the next one I want to talk about. This is my favorite talent for sure. This is the most important one. Okay, it's Storm Shield. So why does Storm Shield matter? Well, this is like not as strong as Safeguard was in Shadowlands. Safeguard, if you guys remember, was a finesse conduit out of your Covenant sanctums. And it basically made it so that every time you intervene, you give your target an 8 to 10% DR, depending on if you have the upgraded node or not. And this is like very, very strong for Mythic Plus. Specifically Mythic Plus, but also good in Raid and also good in PvP. I think it's especially good in PvP. What they kind of changed though in War Within is that this is only in a magic absorb shield, which makes it a little bit less effective for any kind of damage, because if it's a physical damage, it's not really going to do anything. Also, because this is like a specific number instead of a % DR, it doesn't scale as well in very high content that's going to like one-shot you. Currently, if I look at my warrior's armor, it's going to be giving you about 100k shield, and if you base it off the health numbers of DPS and people in your party, which is roughly between 800 and 900k, it's basically going to give you like around like a 10% absorb shield for any mechanic, right? But specifically only for magic. But like, yeah, again, high content, it's not going to be infinitely scaling, so 100k shield is going to be very powerful in like low keys and then like easy like heroic raid. but in very, very, very high keys, this is not going to be as effective, but still quite strong. Essentially, what you want to kind of think about it is a 30-minute, 6-second sack on your target, right? Because intervene is tied into intervene, and intervene is a 30-second cooldown. So it is very powerful, and it is a reason, I can think, oh, Warrior's kind of back, right? Because right now in the current Mythic Plus meta, Protection Paladin is super strong. And the reason Protection Paladin is super strong is that when you're in a very high tyrannical key or even a fort key, when your DPS are dying, currently as Prot Warrior, you're just kind of looking at it. You're just looking at them dying. You're just like, okay, I can't do anything about it. Hands up. But having your ability like Storm Shield makes it so that you can actually make a difference. So when your DPS have no cooldowns left to survive a mechanic, you can just intervene them every 30 seconds, and that is an insane ability. And I think it'll be this to me is like the reason why I would want to go Mountain Thane over the potential Slayer overall, even though we haven't seen the Slayer tree yet. So yeah, this one is insane. The Stormbolt's talent, I don't think this is going to be used as much. The only area I can kind of see it is in PvP, where you want to, stun all 3 people in 3v3 so that you can have a huge go on the entire team. However, in a Mythic Plus scenario and even Raid scenario, this isn't going to be as good because it's the 3 targets right now, it seems like it's going to be kind of random. And it's going to kind of stun DR everything, right? You're going to put diminishing returns on everything. It's going to mess up your AoE rotation. And usually you want to stun like 1 mob or all the mobs. You don't want to stun 3 mobs that are kind of random. So I don't particularly see this going to be super useful, but it's a really cool visual, at least when you see the talent tree, when you see it live and at the first look. The next one I want to talk about here is Flashing Strikes. So Flashing Strikes has a chance for Lightning Strikes to critically strike at an increase of 5%, and the critical damage is increased by 10%. So there's nothing too interesting about this node. However, it does bring to the question, do stats matter on the new Mountain Thane theme of Lightning Strikes? Like if I stack heavily into Mastery or Crit or like Haste, things like that, does that make them proc more? Does that make them crit more? Does it actually do a lot more damage? Other than that, nothing too special. But the Valajar training one, this has like very interesting applications, whether does it make a difference or not. And why I say that is that in the current state of Warrior, this would not be very good or used unless this works with making your Ravager go down to like a 45-second CD, right? Because for Fury, your CDs are either going to be 45 seconds with anger management, or it's going to be 1.5 minutes without it. Right, so right now Ravager CD is 1.5 minutes, so bringing it down to 1 minute is going to just desync all your CDs and make it completely unplayable. And you're going to be holding for Avatar and Recklessness anyways. But for Prot, this is it's going to be a little bit interesting. And why I say that is that depending on the internal cooldown of it, if it pushes your Avatar or your Ravager down to like 1 minute 45 seconds. Then it can be good, right? Because the average length of a pull, depending obviously on whether you're doing high keys or regular keys, is about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes, right? So if you can use Ravager every pull, that's fantastic. It makes you strong at the start of every single pull. But if every pull is about 1.5 minutes anyways, you're probably not going to send Ravager twice in the same pull in fear that you won't have it for the next pull. So yeah, it doesn't really make too much of a difference, and Flashing Strikes may just be generally the better better talent choice, but it's all going to depend on the internal cooldown and how much Ravager is going to be reduced. All right, the next one I want to talk about is the Steadfast Peaks and Keep Your Feet on the Ground. So both the talents aren't very interesting. One, to me, I think is going to be a lot better. Is going to be Keep Your Feet on the Ground. This is just because it's going to be passively giving you 4% DR, whether you're in a raid scenario, whether you're in a Mythic Plus scenario, all the time. And it is short duration, 5 seconds, but it's just passive, right? So it's something you don't have to think about. However, if you need to survive as Fury in like a Mythic Plus or in a raid scenario, I can see where Victory Rush having a 10% shield on you is kind of good. However, Fury in the past has always kind of been one of the tankier DPS specs, especially now that we have defensive stance. So I don't really see Steadfast on the Peaks being used, but Keep Your Feet on the Ground is just, a great DR, especially for Prot. For Prot, 4% DR on top of whatever we're already going to be having is just a really nice addition to have, and really goes well with the Mountain Thane theme. The next one I'm talking about is Gathering Clouds. Gathering Clouds, your attacks triggers lightning strikes 50% more often, and then you have Thorm's Might. Lightning strikes generate 3 rage. Also, Revenge, Raging Blow, execute damage are increased by 15%. So these ones are also, like all these are a little bit interesting, whereas it's all going to kind of come down to tuning. Gathering Clouds is another passive damage increase. Depends on the tuning of Lightning Strike's ability and see how much that will actually be worth. If it's doing an insane amount of damage for us, then yeah, I'm going to be down for a lot more Lightning Strikes. But, if it's like, 1-2% of our damage, then, triggering more often is not really going to make a big difference. However, what will make a difference is Thorm's Might, right? Because having that 3 extra rage regen constantly throughout the fight is it's good, right? For prot specifically, it makes it so that you have a lot more avatar uptime because of anger management. You have a lot more survivability with Ignore Pain and a lot more damage throughput, whether it's like Revenge or anything else that you're trying to do damage with. So it's just good, right? It's just good rage regen. You have a little bit more damage of Revenge and Execute, which adds to our damage, but that's not really the important part. More looking at the rage generation bonus that you have. For Fury, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. Fury already has a ton of rage economy using between, Bloodthirst, Annihilator, Raging Blow, and then into your Rampages. So it's not going to make too much of a difference, but essentially it's going to be giving your Raging Blow and Execute 15% more damage. So again, based off tuning, Lightning Strike's doing more damage or the 15% increased damage going to make a difference. Second to last, we have Burst of Power. Lightning Strikes have a 20% chance to make your next shield 2 Shield Slams or 2 Bloodthirsts have no cooldown. This is, again, great for prot. Having double Shield Slam on a target it's not only huge damage, huge rage gen. You have it for survivability. Fantastic. For Fury, though, it's a little bit awkward. Right now, even in the Annihilator build where Bloodthirst is a priority, you don't want to be really bloodthirsting twice in a row. You want to be kind of going between Bloodthirst, Rampage, or like Bloodthirst, or Empowered Bloodthirst, Rampage, Empowered Bloodthirst, Rampage. And you're not going to be wanting to hit Bloodthirst twice in a row. However, in this theme, depending on the tuning, if Thunderblast is insane, then you're going to be wanting to Bloodthirst more often, because then you'll be able to get Thunderblast procs, which then you can use Thunderclap and do big damage, right? So currently, it feels kind of weird in whatever the current state of Fury is, but maybe in 11.0, it'll be insane, right? So, underwhelming for Fury at the moment, huge stonks for prot. Which, again, is the theme I'm kind of getting from the Mountain Thane. I feel like Mountain Thane is a little bit weird for the Fury landscape, but very strong for prot. Like, everywhere I look, I'm like, oh, this is great for prot, this is great for prot. And then for Fury, I'm thinking, all right, this is all right, or this is cool. This could be good. This may not be good. Depends on tuning. So yeah, Mountain Thane, I think, is a huge front runner for protection right now without seeing Slayer. But Fury, I can see it, this could be good or the other one could be good. Depends on tuning, depends on the fights. Finally, we have the end node, the big one, which is Avatar of Storms. This is the main talent that even the developers said was their favorite. And it goes into the huge theme of being in avatar form all the time. Whenever you have avatar, you feel super powerful because you'll be getting 2 procs of the Thunderous Blast. Also, you'll be constantly shifting in and out of avatar because lightning strikes have a 10% chance to grant you avatar for 4 seconds, which then grants you 2 charges of Thunder Blast, right? So this is really, really, really cool, I think, especially, again, for prot. But yeah, this ties in the whole theme of very high of avatar uptime out for the class, Thunderclap playing a major component of it, and just doing big damage with like random lightning bolts and having all these cool mountain dwarf theme into the class. Anyways, chat, that's all I want to talk about today. Just giving you guys a sneak peek of my thoughts on the new hero talents. Thank you guys for watching the video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the new content. Peace.